This week on The Big Show, three major organizations, The Image, Golden Globes, and Screen Actors Guild, all released their nominations, and despite a historic year for Black filmmakers, many were shunned. Film critic and Politicrat podcast host Omar Moore joins us to discuss the impacting meaning of what transpired this week. Plus, Wilson Morales, who's not on with us right now, will join Charles Kirkland and I as we'll have all that and more on episode 441 of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon, joined by the talking head to the left of me, Charles Kirkland Jr. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great today. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It absolutely is, because also on with us today, I don't know when the last time I had this dude on the show. We talked for the first time in 2 years last night. Joining us, and I'll give him the intro that he always got. He is the mayor of San Francisco. It is the Big O, Omar Moore. What's up, soul brother?
I am well. And I thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Tim. It is absolutely lovely to be here with you and
also
Charles.
Joining us on Negro Time from Black Film and TV. It is none other than the man with the best curtains in the game. It is Wilson Morales. What's going on, Wilson?
Not much, unlimited time, things to do, people to talk to.
Hey, Wilson, look who we brought back on the show today.
Oh, wow. When did you get out?
Did
they let you out to vote early?
What's
Wilson,
up,
Wait a minute. Wait. I got to make that phone call because we got to get his picture off the milk cartons.
Yeah, man. Like Omar was the dude. And then Omar just went into the witness protection program.
Yeah, man, I thought he was, at first I thought that was a MAGA shirt, but,
Oh, no.
Before we continue, Wilson, can you straighten out your shot, man? How many times we got to tell you cannot be off kilter, dude? Thank you. People are watching this, man.
Wait a minute.
All right, so here we go, gents. I know we got, as we said at the top, we're only going to have both Omar and Wilson for a limited time today, so we're just going to jump right into it. Before I get started, though, I want to wish a happy birthday to my second favorite music artist, Robert Nesta Marley, who would have been 76 years old. If you know who Bob Marley is, I ain't even got time to read his bio. Google him. Your life will be blessed. All right. So Bob Marley, happy birthday to you. If you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, social media, I've been Bob Marley and all day. So y'all know what it is. All right, gents. So here we go, man. This week, three major awards organizations announced their nominations. It was the Image Awards on, I think, Tuesday, the Golden Globes on Wednesday, and the Screen Actors Guild on Thursday. Am I accurate? Is that correct? All
yeah.
Right. And all year long, we've been doing this podcast. Omar has been listening from afar that we've been talking about the historic year for African Americans and Blacks in film, and whether they're Black Brits, whether they're folks of African descent. It's just been an amazing year, between 30 to 40 films directed by Black filmmakers and storytellers. We've had an unknown, because of the pandemic, there's been a flood of information on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, et cetera, Disney Plus, et cetera. And despite all that, I'll start first with the Image Awards, which, as a disclaimer, Wilson Morales on here is a voter of the Image Awards. So I just want to let people know that before we start. But the Image Awards cut off the eligibility just a tad early. So early, in fact, that I'd like to congratulate Will Smith for being nominated for Best Actor this year for Bad Boys for Life. Wilson Morales, as a voter, can you talk to us, man, about the process? Look at Wilson's face.
I am a constituent, like the re-election. I am one of many, majority rules, I guess, and that's all I can say is that, like, I threw in my vote. I can say it was not for Will Smith, but, I can't, control things as far as if that's the vote.
All right, Wilson.
You
over-explained. You didn't vote for Will, but did you vote for Bad Boys for Life for Best Picture?
No, I did not. I did not.
All right, so
I
these
keep it real.
nominees for motion picture from the Image Awards are Bad Boys for Life, as we already said, The Five Bloods, Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and One Night in Miami. So I had a conversation with Wilson about this, and clearly a lot of the February films were not made available. Is that correct? Judas and the Black Messiah, the U.S.
One could assume that, considering that it didn't merit any other nomination, then you could assume that they had not seen the United States versus Billie Holiday, or Judas and the Black Messiah, or The Little Things.
All right. Another category that jumped out at me, and I'm not going to beat up the Image Awards because we got two other award organizations to beat up, was the famed Best Actress in a Motion Picture category. Omar, I don't even know if you knew about these, but Issa Rae for The Photograph, Janelle Monáe for Antebellum, Madeline Mills, who I thought was great in Jingle Jangle, The Christmas Journey, Tracy Ellis Ross for The High Note, and Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Wilson is not enjoying this conversation at all.
You know, you can make the argument they haven't seen the Billie Holiday movie, so that takes out Andra Day. You can make the argument that they haven't seen Malcolm and Marie, so that takes out Zendaya. But there clearly was enough time to see Miss Juneteenth for Nicole Bahari, and it clearly was enough time to see the 40-year-old version with Rada Blank, you know? But sometimes I think what happens is you have voters who, now we're press, so we get to see these things real time when they're coming out. For a lot of other people, these voters are just like the, SAG voters, they're getting these links all at once, and there simply isn't enough time to try to cram in as many movies within a short period of time. So like, my assumption is, they went with the names of the movies that were highly profiled because they probably saw it because they were, playing in, normally I would say they played in theaters, but no, this is a year where everybody was on the same platform, on the same totem pole, that, they all got released at the same time, So like, there was no difference in terms of 5,000 theaters to 5 theaters. They're all playing on the same wavelength. So like,
all right, Wilson, let me jump in and save you again. Charles is reading my face. We're looking at you like this. Look.
No, you're right.
So no, leave it alone because this one's even worse. So we're going to move to the next day for the Golden Globes. And
Wait.
Go ahead.
They had an ensemble category too.
Leave it alone, man. Wilson, we've already made Wilson sweat. I just don't want to embarrass Wilson. I just want to have him sweat a little bit.
Hey, listen, I'm one of many, man. I'm one of many.
All right, but this next one, I'm going to aim at Omar Moore, and this is the Golden Globes because you are an international man of mystery, really. Golden Globes. But before I begin, let me just ask one simple question because I think I asked Omar this last night in our call. The Golden Globes is the Hollywood Foreign Press, right? So this is all of the organizations, all of the territories outside the U.S. Am I correct, gentlemen?
That is correct. They're based in Los Angeles, but they are representing global news organizations located all over the world. Yeah.
Correct. What is the largest continent in the world?
Africa.
Anybody? Huh?
Africa.
Africa. How many voters in HFPA are from Africa or from the continent? I'm just checking. No,
any that I've heard of.
Okay. All right. So let's look at this now and look at their two major categories. Their best motion picture, musical or comedy. The nominees are Borat, subsequent movie film, Hamilton, music, Palm Springs, and The Prom. Best motion picture drama, and the nominees are The Father, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. So my question for you, Omar, is I don't know, One Night in Miami, the U.S. versus Billie Holiday, Judas and the Black Messiah, any soul, anything? Like nothing? The Five Bloods, nothing?
No.
What?
They don't watch black films. Let's keep it real.
They don't.
You got a member from Russia. You got a member from Spain. You got a member from Germany. You know, do these black films travel to their country? You know, that's the thing you got to ask yourself. You know, yes, you don't. No. Hear me out.
Does it travel to your country in a
No, here's the
pandemic?
thing.
It's a
Here's the
split
thing.
link.
You'll get
Exactly.
Bad Boys playing out there because it's an action-packed movie that will make money. Got to remember what distributors think of. You know, they got to think about like what's going to bring money to our movie. So a movie that's a plain dramatic film, you know, those theater owners, just like in the States, will say, okay, how many people? They examine how many people are going to go see it. That's not an excuse. Don't get me wrong, but the question, you know, and especially for these voters, you know, obviously, since we don't know of any person of color that's in that group, you just, you know, for the majority of time, we always assume there's nobody black in that group. So knowing that, don't go in there thinking like, oh, we're gonna get 3 of the 5 nominees. You know, that's never gonna. You know,
I have a question. I have a question. Look, to me, the name of is the Hollywood Foreign Press.
Exactly.
The press should be getting all these screeners, shouldn't they? I mean, it's not like they go to the theaters.
They get them, but do they watch them?
Everything is digital this year. Isn't
So
there's no
nominate
excuse.
the prom, it's clear that you're getting Netflix movies, right?
Yeah.
If you're nominating Mank, it's clear you're getting Netflix movies.
This
the
is
trial of the Chicago 7. Like I said, I'm tired of making excuses, man.
Yeah, no excuses can be made here.
You said it the best. You're not watching black films.
Here's the one thing I said. I said, you know,
not watching them.
It's funny. I make this analogy and compare it to that Charlie Brown skit where he's always trying to kick the football and Lucy pulls back, and yet Charlie Brown tries over and over again. We go into the Golden Globes every year assuming that we should get a number of nominees from the year that we've had, whether it's a Kerry Washington when she was on Scandal, or this past year where we had the greatness of black films, and we don't. And then we complain, and then it's like, wait a minute, they have nobody of color in their group. What are we talking about? You know, you go back to the old days, you think about why the Academy had to start adding more members in there, because there was enough talk about, listen, our films are not being counted in. So they've been trying to add more members in the Academy. So there's a certain amount of percentage there, you know? So with the foreign press, it's like, forget it. They not just the 3 films that they missed out on, but a few others. You know, it's not just the films. You know, Bridgerton was a great series. You know, that did well. And you think it worldwide, globally, it had over 70 million viewers with a black lead and got 0 nominations. You know,
this is about what we want to watch. This is about who we want to be. This is about having some courage. This is about having some guts. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for people not to be watching these films, for people not to think to watch these films, for people not to prioritize them. In my opinion, we've seen this over and over and over again. And I think Charles mentioned this as well. These films are all over the planet. They're streaming. There is no excuse. And not only that, we in these organizations have to be the best vanguard for valuing what we see when we're looking at black talent and black films and black filmmakers and black productions. We have to become advocates. We really do. Case in point, and I'm still in the organization, the San Francisco Bay Area Film Critics Organization. At the time I said this in that group, I was the only black member in it. I got up in the middle of that group, in 98% white group, and I said, it's disgraceful that you guys did not vote for Ava DuVernay for Selma. I said it was absolutely, and this is what we have to start doing. We have to start looking people in the face in our own organizations. We have to be prepared to ruffle feathers. And look, some of the people didn't like the fact that I said that, but it had to be said. And as a result, a few years after that, you had Black Klansman, you had some of these other black productions, and some of the white members in my particular group that I'm part of, they voted for it. In fact, Black Klansman won 4 awards. And there were plenty of other white films that year that they watched. So, you know, you have to start taking a stand too. At some point, we have to be the advocates. And also, one last thing, we've got to start valuing the Black awards shows. Yes, there's times when the NAA doesn't get it right and others don't get it right. But we've got to start putting more emphasis on our awards and what we value. Otherwise, this stuff will never, ever change.
Well, that's the thing. You also
the
forget just to,
BFCC is doing some amazing work led by Wilson Morales. I'm a voter. What year are you in now? Year 10?
who?
The Black Film Critics Circle.
Yeah, we've now 10 years
You know
now.
the thing that you run that you completely forgot. You like
no. It's 10 years now, and we go by the vote. Every group is going to vote differently. The good thing about our group, and you also got to remember the Golden Globes and NAACP. It's also about ratings. When they're being televised, they're constantly looking, what's going to draw an audience to see the show. You got to remember, last at the Golden Globes, they were the only group that got to see Cats early because Universal wanted them to wanted the song by Taylor Swift to get a nomination. As bad as that movie was, they got it to them early. Look at the leaks that studios will go through because they want to be mentioned and they want to be on screen. And for NBC, the home of the Golden Globes, they know it's a ratings juggernaut. They get more numbers. It may not be the same because you got a gazillion channels now, and a lot more options, but it's still a ratings thing. So to a point where you're nominating names. Same thing like the Image Awards. It's going to play on TV, and you can bet, a name like, these names that got mentioned like Tracy and Issa, those are names that people know of. They're household, they're on TV, so when you nominate names like Nicole Bahari for a film that was not seen by a lot of people, or Rada Blank that's playing on Netflix, it could have been seen, but she's not getting as high profile as some of the other films that's on Netflix. It's like, okay, they want to go with these TV awards. It's always there's a lot more to it than just the votes.
So I need to ask about the disconnect, because there's Viola Davis, Andra Day, they both got nominated for Best Actress for their films, and Daniel Kaluuya got Best Supporting Actor. But how come none of these movies can crack the best movie, the best motion picture category? Where is the disconnect? You can honestly say the performance was good, but the movie wasn't. I'm missing something here.
Sometimes it's I don't know about other awards. I know with our awards, it's a point system, where you can get you look at the SAG Awards, both Amy Adams and Glenn Close got nominated for their performance, although the film didn't, so you can nominate a performance because it's good, and the film just wasn't merited enough to land in the top 5.
Excuse me, sir. I'm glad you brought that up. I see that the Screen Actors Guild announced their awards on Thursday, and of course the Five Bloods, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Minari, One Night in Miami, and Trial of the Chicago 7 were nominated. And I guess that's the equivalent of Best Picture cast in a motion picture, or is that the ensemble category?
It's the ensemble,
Okay, so that's the ensemble. I'm confused by something because all year we've been talking privately and publicly that we kind of know that Frances McDormand, Viola Davis, Carey Mulligan, and for the most part, Vanessa Kirby and Pieces of a Woman are all locks to probably get these nominations in that category. But you're looking at either a Zendaya or an Andra Day to try to fight for this last spot. And suddenly I wake up and discover that Amy Adams from Hillbilly Elegy.
But here's the thing. There's Amy Adams.
No, but wait a minute, Wilson. But wait a minute, Wilson.
Rosamund Pike.
But wait a minute. Nobody in any critics groups, there was no buzz. Where did Amy Adams come from? It's almost
because it comes from
Gabby Sidibe for
actors are not press. Actors are not critics. Actors are busy. Actors are not reading Rotten Tomatoes.
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. That's a disgrace. Amy Adams.
This movie, Wilson. Really?
Here's the thing. We are all part of the press.
Maybe, but Amy Adams?
No chance. Amy Adams, no chance.
Here's the thing. Here's the funny thing, and not to defend it, but I keep saying we're press. At the end of the day, actors are looking at things differently than we are. Now, if they're reading it, then they're like, okay, but at the end of the day, it's still a name. You can have a name like, sometimes you have those names that are so much of a heavyweight. Like you could look at last year's The Irishman. For 2 years in a row, before that movie came out, we knew everybody was going to get nominated, and they did, because it's that caliber of actors, even if we say, even if we thought the movie was kind of so-so, the caliber of their, the career got them in. Now, can she win? It's a whole different story,
I love this
but
being the defense of Amy Adams, but
I'm not defending it. I'm just defending how the system is played out. I'm not defending her. And she's not to blame.
Everybody on this
and
call.
Amy Adams in the same argument doesn't seem to work for me. I mean, I can accept Pesci as a heavyweight, but you can't tell me that Amy Adams is a heavyweight in the industry.
She's been 6 times. She's a 6-time Oscar nominee. Don't say she's not a heavyweight.
But here's the key. This is my point. And Amy Adams, I'm sure, is watching this. We're not disparaging you, right? So this is not about you. This is about you having a role that I didn't read any buzz. I don't know anybody who's coming up to me talking about, man, you got to be checking for Amy Adams, man. She is a dark horse. I haven't heard anything about Amy Adams.
There's always a film. No one was talking about the Mauritian, and all of a sudden Tahir Rahim and Jodie Foster got in the race. And that film
a good film.
That's what I'm saying. But they were not on anybody's radar. So we're talking about films that are good, but because we're not seeing anybody write about them, but then we look surprised when they get in. Have you seen I Care a Lot? Have you seen I Care a Lot?
It's a natural reaction.
Did you see, Charles, did you see I Care a Lot?
Yes, I did. I did see I Care a Lot, and I thought Rosamund Pike was incredible.
I thought she was great. Now, if Rosamund Pike got a nomination,
I would accept that.
Yeah,
she got a Golden Globe nomination. This
is about politics, plain and simple. We can have the conversations, and we're having them, but let's have it absolutely right, gentlemen. This is about politics. This has been about politics, and it's been about a lot more than just politics. There is no excuse whatsoever, and I know Amy Adams has got some talent. She does not belong in that category. That she should not be there. End of story.
Here's the thing.
There is no justification whatsoever to sit here and sit down and tell me that Amy Adams deserves that nomination.
We can look at Jared Leto. Jared Leto got both nominations.
Well, Jared Leto was, again, another one that didn't deserve it. But again,
politics all the way across, mate. Politics.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. I mean,
and all of us know that.
So Wilson's attitude, from what I gather, and check me if I'm wrong, is that it's kind of the way the game is played, and I'm like, the game is rigged, man. I'm telling you, exactly. I've sat here some years, and I remember watching Denzel Washington up for best actor for Fences lose to Casey Affleck, and I like to use that. Denzel literally had a tear in his eye. Where I'm like, how the hell am I losing this? When he played a role for 2.5 hours where he just emoted one way. He didn't give you any range. There was no.
We think everybody thinks differently. There are people out there that says, "Hey, Casey Affleck did a good job," and so forth. You can't just cry over one person. It wasn't like he. Granted, with as many times that Denzel lost, I remember when he lost to Al Pacino.
When he lost to Al Pacino when
Malcolm X.
Won for Malcolm X.
Yes, and remember that was Al Pacino's 8th nomination, and they were like, "Okay."
But see, this is the politics that Omar is talking about. And I hate to say it, right? Because I'm not doing a commercial for me, but I'm just stating the facts, right? Mm-hmm. The Black Reel Awards, simple organization. I've been running for 21 years. I've sat there many times, and I've shared with all of you guys privately and publicly. There's stuff that we voted for, or voters have voted for that won that I disagree with. But my point is that I've never tried to rig it, never tried to change it. You just try to accept it. But Wilson, come on, man, it's politics. I don't play politics. People vote their conscience. We let them go. Wilson, I'm gonna stop for a second because Wilson's got to run. You got some important business to do, bro. We always appreciate you. Tell people where they can read your content before you bounce. And I wish you didn't have to bounce because I swear we want to some more.
If I can come back before you end, I'll come back. But if not, you can find me at Black Film and TV. Look for all content there. Black Film and TV. Omar, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Wilson.
Number, I know I've tried calling you a couple of times, and I think maybe you got your phone disconnected, but I'll get your new number.
No, stop it. You slander me so. How dare you, young man?
This was a note. No lie. I think the last time I saw you, you were kind of slim. You kind of look like you just coming out the joint.
Yeah, you don't put on some weight, man.
No, man.
It's like, that's why, Early parole, you know. I don't want to say anything. I think you were number one.
I'll be in touch with you, Wilson. I'll be in touch with you.
I think you was on Trump's list. I think you get that
Wilson,
pardon.
Yeah.
He got that pardon.
Yeah, Trump's list.
He got-
You got it.
Don't leave until you come back, man.
All right, folks.
All
See
right,
you,
man.
Wilson.
Yeah.
All right, so to Wilson's point, man, Wilson is my friend who, when I talk to him privately, Wilson is incensed. When you put the camera on Wilson's like, oh man, it's just a game, you know. That's how you gotta roll with the punches. I'm like, man, it's BS, man.
Exactly.
But Omar, I'm gonna let you have the floor, man. You and Charles.
I think Omar said something really important, and that we have to look to our Black award ceremonies and honor and start paying attention to them and start esteeming them. And so, like you said, with the Black Real Awards, I'm a voter, and I'm very happy for most of the time what they do. But then when you get something like the NAACP Image Awards that do these things, we have to hold them accountable as well. And so, because they're crossing over into the territory of Nickelodeon as far as award shows go, when you make these kind of nominations,
Nickelodeon. Wow.
I mean, instead of being a prestige, it's becoming more of just an image and not something that people can hold and honor. And so, we got to hold our image awards responsible for what they do as well.
So I want to ask this question, man, because Wilson made a good point, and I wish he was here so we could further this conversation. But Wilson talked about when you look at the Golden Globes and you look at the Image Awards and some of the other awards, because I'm not just going to point these two out, but is it more important to bring in ratings on a telecast when you have nominees that aren't as credible versus having very credible nominees that a lot of the general public may not know? And I think, speaking for me, I think I've always been in the second bucket, because we just look at the films from year to year, put them on the ballot, and then bring in people who watch said films, and you award the best work that year, which to me makes sense. This is not the Lifetime Achievement Award, which I think the Oscars are a lot of times. You know, when you hear Wilson say it was Al Pacino's 8th nomination, it wasn't Denzel Washington's fault that Al Pacino had never won an Oscar the previous 7 times and then had to have his Oscar snatched from him, because that's essentially what happened in Malcolm X. He had already won an Oscar, a supporting one for Glory, a couple of years earlier. Here he is back, sensational, probably to me the best performance of his career, and he didn't win an award for that. He won an award, Omar, in 2001 for Training Day, almost by default, because Russell Crowe had, I want to say, was it A Beautiful Mind? Was that the Beautiful Mind year?
It was. That's correct, yes.
And he had the meltdown at BAFTA, at which people credit. I mean, seriously, I'm not making this up. Russell Crowe went over to the BAFTA Awards, got into a confrontation with somebody, melted down. And when it came time for folks to vote for him for the Oscar, people remembered that Denzel Washington was the beneficiary of that. We can go back in time. I was sharing with Omar last night, you know, as much as I love Paul Newman got the shaft in 1963 when they gave Sidney Poitier an Oscar for Lilies of the Field, a movie to this day it's hard for me to watch. You build the chapel, I build the chapel. I was like, really? That's the one you got an Oscar for? That?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, but it's like the Stephen Fetchit days. I mean, I hate to be so blunt, because I love and respect Sidney a great deal. And he's going to be having another birthday coming up just this month. I should remind people who listen and watch your wonderful podcast. To your point, though, Tim, this is, again, the politics is inescapable. And I don't care that Al Pacino's had 8. This is not what it should be based on. It should, as you've pointed out, and as Charles has pointed out, it should be based on merit. It should be based on what is in front of us this year, not what didn't happen 4 years ago, not what didn't happen 5 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 50 years ago. We have to start looking at these awards where we see them with the talent that is out there. And again, I want to reinforce something that Charles very kindly pointed to, that I said earlier. We have to start respecting and exalting our own awards and pushing them higher. And you're doing that, Tim and Charles, with Black Reel, and you're doing great things with that. And that needs to continue on as you've been doing so illustriously for so long now. We have to keep doing this. More organizations, more Black organizations must keep doing this. And yes, we can complain about the Oscars, and rightly so. It's part of the film world that we are talking about and discussing, and you discuss often on your podcast. And we can talk about all of these other organizations and what they're not doing. And yes, I agree with both of you. They should be doing them. I'm 100% with you. They should be recognizing the talent and not sidelining Black talent. But we must continue the drumbeat of pushing Black organizations and Black award shows and recognizing and respecting the talent. Because let me tell you, Black women and Black men and Black people are busting it out here on the big screen, and they're giving darn good performances, and we have got to keep saluting them and exalting them. Otherwise, we are going to have this conversation next year and the year after and the year after. So, I mean, that's really the basic point that I want to make, Tim. And you're spot on. The politics is just rife, but we've got to continue to support our own and exalt them when they do great things.
So Omar, do you have time for one more question before you
Yes,
got to
sir. One more. Yes.
Okay. The question I had for you, and I've given this a lot of thought, is, you know, we went through a cultural and social upheaval in 2020, you know, with social justice, which you have been brilliantly covering throughout the year on your new podcast, which we got to bring you back because we don't have enough time to really delve into what you're doing and what you have done. But in a year where we've had a record-breaking amount of Black talent and creatives in front of and behind the camera that have been producing quality work, in a year where we've had, as I said, this social and cultural upheaval in our society and in all the industries, you get to award season, and I'm not asking for a handout. So before I ask the question, I'm not saying this is like, you know, affirmative action that you need to give me a nomination just because. But I think that you can rattle off 5 or 6 films, and we've talked about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, One Night in Miami, Judas and the Black Messiah, Malcolm and Marie, the U.S. versus Billie Holiday. You can talk about The Five Bloods. There's been the 24th. There's so much content that's been produced this year. And this is a year where we see Regina King kind of be lifted up, rightfully so, because I thought she was great in directing One Night in Miami. But I'm not seeing the fruits of all that hard work. And what does that say to us, Omar? That is this one of those delayed sort of situations, like, you know, we talked about 2014, where, you know, you had Mandela, Selma, and a bunch of other films. Is this one of those delayed things that we're going to keep building and we continue to see progress, small incremental steps along the way? Or does Hollywood and the industry still not get it, even after what happened in 2020?
I think it's a bit of both, but I will say to you, and I appreciate the way you've asked the question, Tim. I will say that while I think it's a bit of both, it's also about the way that the society itself is being paradigmed into how the movies are and vice versa. I mean, there's all these steps in society that we still have yet to get to. And in some ways, the film industry is even further behind in that, particularly in Hollywood. Even now, the Academy, in its 92, 93, how many ever years it's been, is still profoundly backward. And I know, and you both know, Charles and Tim, that the Academy has taken some steps, a lot of activist steps, a lot of diversity committees and governors committees on diversity and task force. And Ava's been part of this and a number of others. And it was started by Cheryl Boone Mills, I believe, or Boone Isaacs, excuse me. So Cheryl Boone Isaacs back in the day, who has laid this foundation. So we've had to have that kind of layering in the industry just to get the ball rolling so that people see who we are and what we do. So to answer the question more directly, I would say that we are in a push and pull situation. We will have a year where we get a lot of people, Ruthie Carter winning an Oscar for her great work in Black Panther, and Hannah Beachler winning an Oscar for her fantastic work in that same movie. And we'll see situations that same year where I believe Spike Lee won that year for Black Klansman as the best original screenplay writer. And we'll get that year, and then it will go backwards again, where we'll get virtually no nominations or we'll get snubbed. And then we'll go another year after that where you'll have a couple. And then it goes back and forth. It's just like the society that we live in. 2 steps forward, 1 back. You know, Barack Obama for 8 years, and then Donald Trump for 4. And,
Wow.
and it goes back. So there's this mirror, Tim, between what the society is showing us and what the film world is showing us. And the difference is going to be ultimately is that we are going to, again, we're going to have to get activist about this. Just like you're seeing people in the academy, Black people in the academy, some concerned white people in the academy, and other people, Latinx in the academy, who are making these movements to change things. We as critics, as film awards groups, and others in that sphere, we will have to keep doing this ourselves as well.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking as you were talking that, you know, almost 60 years ago, back on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in 1963, Dr. King talked about having a dream where one day he wanted to see his children not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And here we are 58 years later, and Black actors and creatives and filmmakers are not being judged by the color of their performances in their work. They're still being judged by the color of their skin, which is a sad, sad indictment. And of course, I wish Wilson was here because he'd sit here and go, no, it's the rule. It's not what it is. Yes, it is. Omar, we got to let you go right now because I know you got a lot of stuff to do. Charles and I are going to hold it down for the rest of the way. Tell everybody where they can follow you. And we expect to see you next Saturday, same bat time, you know, because you know what it is. Omar, for people at home who don't know, I used to have something. Remember this, Omar? I used to close every show what I called my, I forget, it was like 3 of you guys. I don't know if I used the Avenger name or what I called them, but it was like my big 3, man. And, and Omar was one of the 3 who closed this show out every week. So, bro, if you got the time, you know, I'm here every week, man. Charles and I are always here. You always welcome. You don't have to wait for me to call you. We'll just shoot you the link out and you can just jump on and join at your convenience, brother. But tell people where they can follow you, Omar.
Well, yeah, I think 2 things, 2 places, on Twitter at the popcornreel.com. That's at the popcorn reel. And also thepoliticrat.com. The Politicrat, that's Politicrat, thepoliticrat.com. And that's probably the 2 best places to follow me at this time. I want to thank both of you, Charles and Tim, for inviting me on. It's really been an honor to be here. I do look forward to coming back again. Next week, maybe not, we'll have to see, but I definitely want to be a part of the conversations that you're having because you're doing an excellent job and making people aware, spreading the consciousness, exalting Black talent, having the conversations and debates that must happen. So thank you to you both. Tim, thank you for inviting me back. And Charles, be well. I'll see you guys again soon.
Wait a minute, man. I am not your Negro. I'm jealous, man. You realize that's one of my favorite docs. I watch that thing like once a month, man, to make sure I'm like, okay, I got my juices flowing now. Thank you, James Baldwin.
Me too. I do the same thing.
I don't even know why y'all need her. Never mind. Go. You take care, bro. We will talk soon, man. Love you, dude.
Love you. Take care, guys. Be well.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Of course, that is my man, Omar Moore. It is, you know, you don't know. I was in the middle of last night, Charles, of working on my WAFCA ballot. And I was, to put it bluntly and be nice, I was terribly bored. Because I'd already done a ballot for the Critics' Choice Association early in the morning. When they made it easy, only pick 3 of something. Our awards, we had to pick 5. So I had my 3, I kept cutting and pasting, then I'd have to sit up and do some research. So I was bored and Omar called me up. So I think we got on the phone for like 2 hours because I hadn't talked to Omar literally in almost 2 or maybe 3 years, man.
Well, that
you
was
heard Wilson. Yeah, you're Wilson, man. Omar literally just one day disappeared, man. He wouldn't take our calls. I was texting him. It was like, I guess he turned his back on the game, but he had more interest. But I'm glad to reconnect with my brother, to bring him back. Yeah, man. So that was a good thing. So Charles, I was hoping we.
That was a great experience for me. First time meeting Omar. He's a pretty cool dude.
He is indeed. And it's funny because last time I saw Omar, we had him on the air. Omar had an afro, he was kind of thin. Man, he'd been in the gym on some of that workout, chest all expanded, got the beginning of locks. I'm like, all right, Pippin, I see you. So, hey, man, but again, man, like I said, I'm just really happy. And I'm in a very good mood because it's cool to hook up with our film community. I've been doing this for a while. And as you know, when you guys always tease me about my 20, I don't know, I think right now is at 28 years and counting of having done this, man, that you build relationships over time. And it's cool that, our awards, which we're going to start our vote this Monday. I think it's Monday and Tuesday. You guys are going to be voting on nominees. We'll be announcing said nominees on February 18th. So I'm and I get excited around this time of year because I don't know what the voters are going to do. And there's so many different options. So I don't know what film's going to come out of there this year. I know everybody, and it's funny, Charles, because I tell people this all the time. It's always one of those last thing people seen sort of situations. So I'm thinking the U.S. versus Billie Holiday and Judas and the Black Messiah should do pretty well because those are the last things. And Malcolm and Marie, which is currently streaming right now.
Well, I'll say this, because last night I was doing much like you were, struggling with my WAFCA ballot because you know how busy my Saturdays are. So I'm like, I knew what SAG had done. I knew what Golden Globes have done. And I'm like, man, do I have to go further and press in some of these Black films in our WAFCA? And I think about it, I'm like, nah, WAFCA is pretty on point most of the time. But right. I'm still like, man, I gotta represent. Let me get Billie Holiday in there. Let me get Malcolm and so I just wanted to make sure that, I love our voting environment here in WAFCA because we're a liberal area, Chocolate City. We got a lot of people who are going to represent for all films, not just certain films.
Right.
Hopefully, we won't be looking like some of these other awards associations coming in the next couple months. And then you talk about Black Real. And for you, it's real easy because you get to sit back and say, hey, I didn't vote it. I didn't do it. It's not me. But there's a special integrity for us as we vote for those Black Real Awards starting on Monday. And, hey, I'm happy to be a part of both of these award associations. And that I'm telling you, what happened with the Image Awards is people are going to start looking for these other associations, and I think Black Real Awards is going to benefit a little bit from what the Image Awards has done. And I'm not going to fault them so much that, I think it was more their criteria. Again, I saw where a lot of these films that came out in January, February just couldn't make it onto the Image Awards list because of their eligibility requirements. And maybe this year is going to be the problem, and next year they'll rectify it, but they never moved their deadline significantly like some of the other organizations did to accommodate for the differences and stuff. But hey, I don't care. As long as the Black Real Awards can reap the benefits, I'll take it.
Wow. Well, a couple of things, man. I mean, because this is a comparison that is made every year when we have our awards. And one of the things that I try to remind people is that we have a 104 member organization of voters, our voting academy split into 4 different groups. And I think it's film critics, film industry folks. We have music, we have a music branch, then I think it's an independent or a television branch, which I think we branched that branch off and given it to the Black Reel Awards for television, which are those awards that we have every August. But we have a group of folks who are industry folks and who are actually film critics, and film critics make up the largest percentage of the voters. So a lot of this we didn't see stuff that you get from the Image Awards. We wouldn't have that problem because a lot of our voters, I would say the majority of our voters, have already seen these films and has seen them weeks ago. The other difference is that with the Image Awards, it's the NAACP. Now, this is my understanding, and if I'm incorrect, please somebody text me, email me, and tell me I'm wrong. But I think their membership as a whole, if you're a member of the NAACP, you get a ballot for the Image Awards, or at least that's the way it was explained to me. So you're dealing with people who may be engineers and doctors and in any other field that are voting on not just film awards, but television awards. They're voting on music. They're voting for literature, books. They're doing social justice this year. So so it's not a fair comparison, Charles, to look at an organization that may have 8 to 9 categories that we share, because we go a lot deeper. So it's the Black Reel Award analogy, and trust me, as somebody who's been doing this for 2 decades, I think about Jeff Friday, who is my homeboy from Newark, who runs ABFF. That festival has been going strong since 1997. He has ABFF Honors. ABFF Honors is almost kind of based on BET Honors, where you pick 6 to 8 individuals that you want to honor, or like the show we just had the other night with the celebration of Black cinema for the Critics' Choice Association, where you get a certain amount of people that you honor. So the precedence for the awards that was an idea that I came up with back in 1999 is more, the better comparison would be the Golden Globes or the Academy Awards or the Screen Actors Guild. That's the type of show in my mind when I created the Black Reel Awards then was the impetus. It wasn't about, because, let me stop because I had a thought in the middle of that, Charles. There was an organization called the Tree of Life Award. Did you ever hear about that?
Yes.
Which was a really Black insider award show that they had. It was the night, it normally took place in Beverly Hills the night before the Academy Awards. If there were specific African Americans or people of color, Black people that were nominated that year, they would have a ceremony for them, the Tree of Life, the night before the Academy Awards. And I think that ran for like 25 years and then they stopped doing it. So I had done a lot of research and knew and was familiar in the award space in the 90s of what we needed as a community. And hence we designed the Black Reel Awards. And I think the first year we came out, I think we may have had 8 film categories. We weren't doing television at that point. And I tell you, the first 10 years were rough. Because it wasn't about us. It was about, people now, you look on Netflix now, Charles, and, you got Gina Prince Bythewood with this movie and Barry Jenkins with that movie and Spike Lee with this movie and Lee Daniels with that movie and this Black filmmaker, Ava DuVernay, all these creatives. Man, 20 years ago, you did not have that. And I think back of some of the years, man, and you telling people they're looking at our awards, and I would go, hey man, all we doing is picking the best of what's there. I mean, I don't make the movies, we just honor what's there. And the job has gotten from about maybe 2014 to now, like the last 6 or 7 years, you've been in a golden age of Black creatives, Black storytellers. And, so I am firmly confident that, there are new young names like Rada Blanks this year, Channing Godfrey Peoples. Yeah. Trying to think of some other young filmmakers. David E. Talbert's been around for a minute.
Dr. King, I mean, if you want to talk about him.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm happy with what with the progress. And, one of the things that you heard Omar say is that, it's almost like you take two steps or one step forward, and it's almost like two steps back. The thing for me, Charles, in thinking about this is from year to year is thinking about who has projects coming out. I know Barry Jenkins has Underground Railroad, which I think is going to be a television project. I know Ava DuVernay has something she's developing because she didn't put out anything this year. So again, like I said, Spike Lee, who usually works fast and quick, it should have something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, from year to year, I'm just surprised. I don't try to look ahead in the crystal ball and go, Ryan Coogler got a movie coming out this year. It's going to be good. We got Eddie Murphy's film next month, Coming to America, the sequel. I don't think that's directed. I think that's directed by the guy that did Hustle and Flow, Craig Brewer, is directing that one. So, yeah, man. I mean,
I think last year we were almost in the same spot. We were coming off a year that was really strong for Black creatives, and we were like, oh, we don't know what the year is going to hold. And a year ago at this time, we didn't even know about a COVID. So, I mean, it was just like, we really don't know what's coming. And so I was pleasantly surprised at the output that we received this year. And so I remain optimistic for this year that we're going to still, we don't know what's coming, but I'm sure that there are things coming. And I credit you a lot because you've been able to grow through this whole process. I mean, like you said, from the beginning of the Black Reel Awards, when there was, I don't know, to vote for, and now you're like, I really got to choose now. There's really some choices that need to be made as far as things go. So I'm gloriously happy that the Black cinema has progressed so far, and I'm confident that it's going to continue. And whether we give it the recognition or the Oscars give it the recognition or the SAG Awards give the recognition, someone needs to recognize these people for what they're doing and encourage them to continue doing what they're doing. Because if if someone doesn't, then I mean, art for art's sake, yes, they're going to do the work, but at some point in time, it can become exasperating. And so I think it's important that we continue to be supportive and be watch for what's coming, because we don't know what it is, but something's coming and it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Well, one last thing, man, because we got about maybe 5 minutes left, man, is I've been sleeping on it, praying on it, thinking about it. And for a minute, not just last night, but I'm really, really thinking that one of my passion pieces that's going to take me to a new direction. I've always been a Black film historian, actually not a Black film historian. I've always been a film historian, right? And I've studied because the African-American experience in films, in race films in that early period, you hear me talk about a lot. I'm seriously thinking finally about pulling the trigger on a new podcast. And I was trying to call you because I was, talking to some of my colleagues about this. I'm thinking specifically, Charles, of doing a podcast about the golden age of Hollywood from 1910 to 1960. But what I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about re-examining it with the Black gaze as opposed to what we contributed or lack thereof, and then break down certain films in the imagery that we've seen with Black folks or African Americans in these films, and then talk about, analogize, I don't even know if that's a word, but I want to do an analogy and kind of really break down, or an analysis, excuse me, not an analogy, an analysis of these works, and then how we fit into those works and how we feel about some of these works and how those works speak to us. So I'm seriously thinking about doing that, man. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that Professor Gordon, I think this would be an excellent opportunity to not just inform ourselves, but to educate ourselves as to where we've come and how far we've gotten from where we've been. So, I think it's a great idea. Well,
I mean, I think the other issue that I'm having, in revisiting this, man, is that when we talk about our history is always tinged with a lot of trauma, right? And I was on a Zoom call this morning telling a story about maybe a decade ago. I was home one morning scrolling through channels, and I saw that Turner Classic Movies was playing the 1936 Stagecoach. Paul Robeson sings "Old Man River," and I forget the white actress who has to teach the darkies the dance at the end. And I said, if it hadn't been my own television, I would have probably thrown a boot through the screen. That I was so upset. But I think what I've witnessed is that you and I have had conversations, and even trying to do this podcast, where there's certain things that we want to do, and then we go back and look at history and go, there's really no precedence for that. Remember Christmas? We were trying to do a Christmas show, and we were like, where are the old Black Christmas films? Oh, I'm sorry, there aren't any. Where are the old this that happened that I experienced? They didn't exist. I like to tell you the story that every time Turner Classic Movies wants to do either something with civil rights or they want to celebrate Blackness, they roll out a Sidney Poitier movie from either the 50s or the 60s, and that represents the Black output. Or you'll get the series from 1949 when they had, count it, wait for it, Charles, 4 films about the Black experience. This was the year prior to when Poitier becomes the first leading Black man in Hollywood history. But you had Intruder in the Dust, Pinky, Home. What was that movie with James Edwards where the white guy, he's injured and the white guy wants him to get out the bed and he goes, "Get up, you dirty end." And in anger, he gets up and he starts walking and he falls into the arms of the white guy who calls him an N. And he goes, I know, it's going to be all right. And I'm like, no, it's not. You called him. So these are the sorts of stories. Song of the South in 1948. This, yeah, man, it's been a lot of racism, a lot of misogyny, a lot of sexism, and a lot of degrading images of our people. And that's the only thing that gives me pause. But I think we're going to find a way inside of that darkness to illuminate some light on the subject and educate people on the history of African-American cinema or the race period. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing, man.
All right. Quickly to wrap it up, when I was watching the movie Malcolm and Marie, there's this point when John David Washington is coming home from the theater and, he's on a high, but he's talking about this one critic who compares him to Spike Lee and all this these other directors. He's like, why couldn't he compare me to William Wyler? And my wife looks at me, who's William Wyler? And I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, this is one of those moments I could see Tim Gordon here, where he's like, you got to look at all of the cinematic experience. You can't just pigeonhole it because it's a Black film, and this is what. Sometimes it crosses those lines, and this is what he was talking about in this thing. And we got to look at how the Black cinema experience is part of the whole thing too. So yeah.
Amen. All right. So I think, Charles, you've got the last word as we tell everybody in closing, please see something good at the movies. There are reviews of Malcolm and Marie over at thefilmgordon.com or on the Film Gordon YouTube channel or any of the other social media platforms. Next week's going to be a huge show because it's going to be Valentine's weekend, plus it's Judas and the Black Messiah. You don't want to miss that one. But until then, we will see you guys on the other side. Episode 441 is a wrap. Next week, guys, you take care.